between you and Joe Rogan, who has the biggest podcast.
Rogan created, I talked to Rogan today, actually. Amazing guy. I've been in the media, as I said, my whole life. Rogan was like...
Joe Rogan he got a job. He said, I applied for this. He goes, I showed up at this audition to get this job. He says, I can't believe it, out of the millions of people that applied. He said, I got it. He was a cue card reader on a game show about these people right in 95 that they ate bugs. It was a contest, and someone was bugs and someone was not. Someone was fake and some of it wasn't. And people are like puking and going home. But he said, yeah, it was 1995 graduation. He said, I got this job. He said, I'm very lucky to have it. He said, I never dreamed I'd get it. And he says, I'm just reading the cue card. He says, I hope people don't beat me up in the streets. And he probably is a nice guy, but you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I'm sure he is. He is. He said one of the first show, he says, I'm lucky to get this job. He says, I hope I don't get bit up in the streets. He says, just a job. He says, I'm just reading the cue card. But yeah, a lot of the bugs were fake, but some of them weren't.
He was like a sitcom actor and a stand-up comedian and like an MMA fighter. Okay, so he starts this thing called a podcast where he talks for like 3 hours. I'm in television and like a big network.
That's why he's got that. That's why he's got that hippie fucking sign on it between his eyes, like that religion. And yeah, because he was a show about bugs, and he knew there was people like me, 95, that were, not working because of my schizophrenic illness or whatever, my mental illness. And he knew I was going to be out there eating bugs, and all the other shows that parents besides that were like, before that, like Tiger People or whatever. But yeah, held at gunpoint, right?
With this being like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You know, no one's going to listen to a 3-hour podcast from some MMA fighter. He completely changed not just American media, but American history. And I just will admit freely that I did not see it coming. I did not understand it. Didn't think it would work. And the fact...
Yeah, I think that Tucker guy, he said he was like at a rich high school or something in like some rich city. And his dad was like a coach or something, or like a important, like a school figure, and he wrote the school column for the high school. And his dad said you should just go into media or whatever. And he like wrote the high school football. He wrote about the football scores, and he's probably a really nice guy too. And it's just a job for him too. He seems nice, but yeah, I'm not gonna meet him or marry him, but I definitely wouldn't stalk him or hurt him. But
didn't think it would work, and the fact that it did work says something so important about Americans, which is they really want to learn. They're not learning in school.
Well, yeah, they do, but yeah, they're not my kids. I'm not teaching them school. Unless I get paid, I don't want to. I don't like being around kids or brats.
Not learning in the rest of the media, and Rogan's just like willing to sit there with interesting people and talk for 3 hours. That was the most affirming, that is the most reassuring thing I've ever seen in 35 years in media, that worked. I'm proud to be his friend, and I really admire him.
Between you and Joe Rogan, who has the biggest podcast.
Rogan created, I talked to Rogan today, actually. Amazing guy. I've been in the media, as I said, my whole life. Rogan was like a sitcom actor and a stand-up.
Yeah, sitcom actor. It was like a game show, but it was like a game show, but it was... Yeah, they're acting like they were bugs, and someone weren't. Someone was like a sitcom, so they were acting like it was a game show, but it really wasn't, because they won a prize if they could get through and eat all the bugs at the end of the contest. And he was just reading the cue card. Yeah, he's a dude out there, but yeah, not all of them are nice.
And was like a sitcom actor and a stand-up comedian and like an MMA fighter. Okay, so he starts this thing called a podcast where he talks for like 3 hours. I'm in television and like a big network, and I'm looking over at this being like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You know, no one's going to listen to a 3-hour podcast from some MMA fighter. He completely changed not just American media, but American history. And I just will admit freely that I did not see it coming. I did not understand it. Didn't think it would work. And the fact that it did work says something so important.
It was like 95, well, it was 2095. Baywatch was on with Kit Kat, the talking car dude from the 70s. Yeah, Incredible Hulk. Gonna take off his green clothes and start killing people. Rip off his clothes, he eats gremlin food. Rips off his clothes, starts killing people. Yeah, I hate that stuff.
Americans, which is they really want to learn. They're not learning in school. They're not learning in the rest of the media. And Rogan's just like willing to sit there with interesting people and talk for 3 hours. That was the most affirming, that is the most reassuring thing I've ever seen in 35 years in media. That